When everything we consume is the worst thing ever by some mouth breather on the internet, how is anything truly the worst thing ever? Time for the only podcast to officially create a list of the worst movies ever made. The only one. For real. Worst movies ever.
Worst movies ever. Welcome to another episode of Worst Movies Ever. In today's episode, House on Bear Mountain, made in 1962, is an episode that I actually was going to do on my old podcast at Orgy Castle. Before that went kaputski. My late bud Blade Braxton had recommended us doing this episode and doing this movie on that podcast. For now that I've watched it and I'm ready to sit here and talk about it, obvious fucking reasons. For those of you that aren't familiar with that podcast and aren't familiar with what would be termed a nudie cutie, there was a period of time in American cinema where showing full nudity was against the law. So filmmakers and exploitation filmmakers that were looking to push the boundaries and could obviously see there was a market in showing bare breasts and the nude female form in cinema, tried everything that they could in order to make that happen and broke boundaries to such an extent that eventually the powers that be just gave in. And there was just too much money to be made on this shit. So stuff like House on Bear Mountain, which essentially is just nothing more than an excuse for women to get topless and jiggle their anatomy, was the type of film that a lot of low-budget exploitation people made. And mix that with the marketing that obviously shows there's a Frankenstein in this movie. Now I know why my bud wanted me to watch this. This is not going to be a movie that I think the vast majority of people that come to this podcast are going to be like reaching to go find or has ever been in their wheelhouse. Here on this show, I definitely do not shame smut. I do not shame films that are far more sexual in nature. I think we all can grow the fuck up and realize that this stuff has worth. And it's not just necessarily all for stroking. I mean, if you stroke to this stuff and touch your peener to this stuff, that's up to you, right? Today, I watched this purely for science, people. I don't give a shit what you say to me. I can see your accusatory stares through the airwaves. The aura that is being projected by you is very judgy, and I think you should calm the fuck down. But we're going to talk about these kinds of films from time to time because obviously there's a lot of gems in really funny fucking movies in the crass exploitation realm that I want to sit and watch. And this was definitely one of those that, you know, checked a lot of boxes for me that I had been meaning to get to. Now, the director of this movie, Lee Frost, is very well known in the realms of exploitation cinema. He had made movies such as The Black Gestapo and Two for the Money, and also had made like a handful of... And this is a conversation that I've had in the past on other shows and with other people. Nazi-sploitation films. Nazi-sploitation, sexploitation films, which are so like, I know I had talked about like the Ilsa films on podcast at Orgy Castle and how much of a fan I was of those movies, mostly because the actress is just so absolutely fucking like out of this world. But this guy just made anything he could make to make a buck. And in 1962, that's what exploitation filmmakers did. I mean, in true fashion of this era, I mean, previous worst movies ever directors like Dave Dakota and Jim Wynorski and Fred Olin Ray picked up the mantle and ran with it in the 80s and 90s. But in the 60s, guys like Lee Frost and Herschel Gordon Lewis and David Freeman and people like this were out there making movies like The Defilers and House on Bear Mountain. So there's once you get into these kinds of movies, you start to see various traits of them. Obviously, workmanlike in their production. The main special effect they had to pull people in was nudity. And boy, oh boy, House on Bear Mountain delivers. So what's the plot of this movie? The headmistress of a boarding school from what appears to be jail regales the tale of the downfall of her school, a school where no one likes covering their boobs or being clothed more than necessary. Wolfmen, or I should say indentured servant wolfmen, live in the basement of the school where a hooch-making operation is located. Nude group exercise is highly encouraged, and the cops have an undercover agent in the school looking to take them down. The verdict of this thing, much like Scream Queen Hot Tub Party, I'm sorry to disappoint you guys that are looking for me to trash and shit talk and call things the worst movies ever, but House on Bear Mountain is far from one of the worst things I've ever watched. Fans of Nudie Cuties should absolutely love and watch this movie. It's like the highest recommendation for my D-Gen pervs out there. It's really like the easiest thing we've watched here on the podcast so far. It's just an hour of topless women jiggling their boobs so joyfully that you forget about the nearly absent plot that is read entirely via VO. It's for the kind of movie that it is, and it's only like I said, an hour long. It's one of the best Nudie Cuties I've ever watched. Hands down, bar none. And this might be one of the shortest episodes I've ever done. So let's get to the goods.
What is good?
So the version that I watched was the Nicholas Winding Refn release on his website. You know, that streaming website that he's got. This release looks pristine and looks great. And it's far better than the vast majority of stuff of where you would have found this before. Because I think didn't like Something Weird Video put this out years ago. And you know how shitty all their transfers are, right? This thing looked like a high budget affair for what it is. It looked so fucking good. And having said that, for the kind of movie it is, it feels like kind of a Herschel Gordon Lewis film, but if made well. And fans of like Herschel Gordon Lewis movies will kind of know that he was very workmanlike in how he shot these things, where it was mostly just like master shots, which are like wide shots of people walking into frame in just one or two lights, bathing the entire scene. There was actual like shadow and use of light in very directed ways, and it looked great for a movie that's literally 85% boobs. Another good that I liked is that when the opening credits hit, which are immediate, almost all of the credits in this thing are pseudonyms or phony ass joke credits. And I fucking love it. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a note on that nobody wanted to be associated with this thing. I think the overall tone of this thing is it's supposed to be light and silly. And yes, of course, if any of the authorities were to come after the people that had made this, as I had said earlier, there were a lot of obscenity rulings on what was acceptable with nudity and public indecency at the time with these kind of movies, and theaters could be fined for even showcasing and exhibiting these things. Of course, the powers that be put phony ass names in this so that they couldn't come after them. And they could be like, I don't know what you're talking about. My name's not on this thing. But I fucking love it. I absolutely love when I see shit like that. The main actress who plays the granny, the head marm of the school, trans actress, Whether it's a cross-dressing male actor or it's a trans actor, it's like for the time, there was a lot of, and I suppose you could look at this and say that maybe it's a jokey portrayal of a trans person, but I didn't really think of it that way when I was watching it because it's played pretty straight, you know? So the trans actress that was at the beginning of this movie, it's like everything about it was so good, and it was like John Waters level camp. I fucking absolutely loved it, along with the fact that this is an obvious comedy. And it obviously is supposed to be a silly ass movie. I mean, there's a whole sequence where the marm has a communication device that's nothing more than like a metal tube hooked up to a funnel where they keep, I think she's like talking to the wolf man that lives in the basement that runs the hooch operation. And the Wolfman, let's be honest, is nothing more than a really tall dude with brown face paint and hair matted all over his hands and all over his face. It's fucking so good. But there's a bit that keeps running where every time the marm goes to talk, flour gets shot into their face. Like there's so much dust being communicated back and forth in this really, really ancient style, like telephone device. I thought it was super silly and super lighthearted and super fun. Of course, I can't sit and talk about this without talking about how many fucking boobs are in this fucking movie. It's literally the point of this entire thing. Everyone that has breasts and are female has them out or will promptly take them out within the first 20 seconds of them being on screen. There are shower scenes, group exercise scenes outside where they're doing, calisthenics or running or yoga or whatever, where they are asked to do whatever they can so that the camera can focus right on their chest as they're swaying from left to right, bouncing up and down, running, doing whatever they can. They sit outside and do art, topless. They sit and read, topless. They sit and just exist, topless. The moment the girls are alone and in their rooms, they get topless. Do you get the picture? The entire movie is nothing but a showcase for female anatomy. And honestly, for those of my listeners that are lovers of the female form, you couldn't ask for more. These women are beautiful. And it's just like the entire fucking movie. And all of them are smiling, except there's one actress who kind of looks like, oh man, I won't be here. But the rest of everyone's just so joyous about what they're doing that the tone of the movie feels so light and wonderful that the hour just flies the fuck by. Just absolutely flies the fuck by. And my last good of this is that the end swerve, in spoilers.
This is a warning. Thank you.
We find out that the headmistress who began the movie looking like she was in jail actually wasn't in jail. And all the people, the cops, because the movie culminates into this huge party where the cops are attempting to take down the head marm and the hooch operation because, at the time it was illegal to have this, prohibition, all that shit. So they're trying to take out the marm, and then the fucking Wolfman's father has also infiltrated the house to try and save him because she has not been paying him overtime and he's looking to unionize. It's so fucking stupid. So everybody tries taking her down, but she captures them and they're all locked away behind bars in the basement making hooch for her. So it's a pretty good swerve that I didn't see coming. Let's get to the bads.
What is bad?
This movie, which obviously was made for 10 cents, just like the price of the fucking film is all they spent on this goddamn thing, I'm sure. It has Orgy of the Dead level day and night continuity in it. And what I mean by that is there is a sequence in this where it's supposed to be at night. Then there's a shot of the dad that I had talked about that is looking to, infiltrate the place to help his Wolfman son. That's obviously in the day. And then we go cut right back into night. So, yeah, there's that. There's a sequence, and this is a huge misnomer. Most of the promotional artwork shows like a Frankenstein on the cover of this movie. The big climax, which is the last 20, 30 minutes of this hour-long movie, is nothing but a party where people just sit and do the twist for 30 minutes, some of them topless and some of them not topless, in a huge wide master shot that just lingers and cuts back and forth between other things that are happening, which is very slight. Let's be clear here. The majority of the last half of this movie are just people doing the twist at a party and obsessively drinking whole bottles of fucking booze. They show, to round back to where I was going with this, they show two of the members that are there at the party are dressed up as Frankenstein and Dracula. If you were to look this movie up and read any description, they make it sound like there's an actual Frankenstein and Dracula monster in this movie. There isn't. They're people dressed up at a party to look like Frankenstein and Dracula. And they show them a lot in mean mug close-ups. Total bullshit. There is an actual Wolfman in this movie, but no actual Dracula or Frankenstein. So it's bullshit. If it was a total Monster Mash movie where we had Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman making illegal hooch in the basement of this school where nothing but topless women resided and attended, this might be the greatest movie ever made. But it's not. We've been totally lied to. So don't get your hopes up reading any of the advertising or any of the synopsis that you read out there on the internet, because it's total bullshit. They're not actual monsters in this movie. And their whole purpose is to spike the drinks for everybody at the party. And boy, do they spike drinks. There's 5 whole bottles of booze poured into this goddamn thing. So much fucking booze. And I mean, if you're fine with seeing just an extended lockdown master shot of people dancing and doing the twist, then I mean, you'll be fine with the last half of this movie. But man, there's really nothing that goes on for a good half hour of this movie. And it felt very 60s. Very, very 60s. Okay. And the final bad I have is there's really no point to this other than boobs. So it's bad if you want that to be a bad. If that's not what you're into, or you feel it's degrading, or you feel any which way about man, I like watching movies that have plots. Half of this movie is just a party and people doing the twist topless with a drunk guy dressed up as Dracula and Frankenstein. Literally, that's half of this movie. So, I mean, I only say this as a bad because I didn't see it as a bad. But I only say it because I know there are going to be people out there that are going to kind of be like, well, you recommended this, but fucking nothing happens, Derek. I'm warning you. That's the whole point of this fucking movie. You better fucking get used to it. Let's get to the what the fucks.
What the fuck is that?
One of the girls, and let's just say that while the women aren't necessarily showcased as being in horrible representations, they are mostly shown as objects through this movie. There is extended sequences where the VO gives the backstory of these women while they're toplessly doing things, One of the women is shown to be not the smartest and is basically studying a dictionary to learn how to speak and not be an idiot the entire movie. And that's kind of fucked up. It's played for laughs, and it's kind of, maybe I'm being a little harsh about it, but it is kind of shitty. But at the same time, it's cute the way that's presented, and it's kind of part of a gag toward the end of the movie. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's hard for me, and I'm going to wrap this up. This is going to be a real short episode. It's hard for me to be hard in down on something like House on Bear Mountain. It is literally nothing but a farce. You go into this thing, and if you're familiar with any of these style of like nudie cutie exploitation films of the 50s and 60s, you'll know that you're not supposed to take these things too damn seriously or to heart. They're literally just stroke pieces. They're here for people at the time that didn't have pornography and liked looking at nude women. 100%. So if you're not down with that, avoid this movie. Not going to be for you. But those of you out there that are fucking grown-ups and can make minds up for yourselves and aren't goddamn sex prudes, this movie's a lot of fucking fun and actually kind of funny. I laughed quite a bit at it. So I give it an absolute thumbs up. Please, by all means, check out House on Bear Mountain. Now, the next episode of this podcast that I'm going to do is a movie that I've been meaning to watch forever, and I'm kind of surprised I never watched it before. So join me next episode of Worst Movies Ever to watch Deathbed, the bed that eats. Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. So that's what we're going to be talking about next time. So take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next week.
Worst Movies Ever podcast is executive produced by Vaughn Kuhlmeyer and Shannon Smith. For more Worst Movies Ever, and to make the Doctor watch your worst movies ever, subscribe to the Worst Movies Ever Patreon at patreon.com/Worst Movies Ever. There you will get a monthly exclusive WME podcast plucked from the user-generated film list, randomized episode to episode. Until next time, celebrate trash at all costs. Toodles.